Planet Money helps you understand the economy. We find the people at the center of the story.
Garbage in New York, that was like a controlled substance.
We show you how money influences everything.
Tell me what you like by telling me how you spend your money.
And we dig until we get answers.
I had a bad feeling you were going to bring that up.
Planet Money finds out. All you have to do is listen. The Planet Money podcast from NPR.
Congratulations, class of 2025.
Years of dedication, countless lines of code, and perhaps a few all-nighters have led us to this moment.
For a long time, Seattle has been a place you could teach yourself to code and wind up a millionaire. Or at least a software engineer earning six figures. Learn to code was seen as a shortcut to success. It even became a meme.
Start freaking coding, man. Just learn to code.
But new grads who thought they were taking that shortcut are hitting speed bumps.
Of course, for you grads, the future is a dark chasm of yawning uncertainty.
I'm Joshua McNichols.
I'm Monica Nicholsberg, and this is Booming, a podcast about the economic forces shaping our lives here in the Pacific Northwest. It's graduation season, and when today's grads started college 4 years ago, an entry-level job in tech was a sure bet.
Even though I was interested in other things, I ended up doing a computer science major when I was in school. And I don't think it's because I'm super materialistic. It was like, I want to be safe.
Now, it's anything but.
And now I'm like, hey, I could land my dream job, perform extremely well, and next week the rug might be pulled up.
And it's not just tech. Internship openings across the economy are the lowest they've been in 6 years.
Entry-level jobs are supposed to be the first rung of the career ladder. So why is that ladder breaking? And is there anything that new grads hoping to enter the workforce can do about it? That's coming up.
Hi, I'm Ben Whitaker. I have a 3:55 appointment with Miss Austin.
3:55? I thought she was meeting with her new intern.
That's me. How you doing?
I'm sorry, how are you an intern?
It's a new senior intern program. It just started today.
So, Monica, my son is a college student right now, and he's a computer science major. He loves it. You know, he taught himself to code, and it's all he wants to do. But, you know, I'm his dad, and I worry about him. So I'm wondering, what kind of job market are college graduates facing right now?
Honestly, kind of a tough one. I've been having a lot of conversations with recruiters, and they say things are just changing really fast.
It's definitely, in my 20 years, been the biggest, quickest flip I've ever seen.
And there aren't as many opportunities for people just starting out, especially in tech.
We're not seeing as many entry-level job openings anymore. It's definitely more on the mid to the high-level side.
I heard from an economist at Indeed, and she said entry-level openings across a whole range of white-collar sectors have been declining since 2022. And that's especially true for software engineers.
So how did things change so much in just a few years?
Well, big tech overhired during the pandemic, and they've been correcting for that. But there's also just so much economic uncertainty right now that they're slow to hire new employees. And all that's led to this moment where AI is raising big questions about how much headcount tech companies really need.
I've been hearing a lot of hype around AI replacing big chunks of the tech workforce. People are definitely nervous. Is AI actually replacing positions like entry-level jobs?
Most people say not yet, but that we could be headed there. What we know is big tech companies have come out and said that software is already writing 20 to 30% of their code. And the type of code that's being automated is what interns and early career programmers would normally do. So that could mean there's less demand for humans to do that work. At the same time, these companies are going through rounds and rounds of layoffs. We don't know how many of those hit early career people, but at least some of them did. And it's interesting. Right after Microsoft's latest layoff, it launched a bunch of new AI products at its big annual developer conference. And Microsoft said the number of its customers using AI agents to do daily tasks has doubled in the past year.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting timing there, huh?
Yeah.
So tech companies are laying off workers. They're not hiring as many new ones, and they're automating some of the work that entry-level coders used to do. And meanwhile, their customers are using AI to do more and more work that used to be done by assistants and interns.
Right. There was also this study by the Brookings Institute that looked at fields where large language models can do the majority of tasks in half the time or less. And the jobs that were most at risk were in computers and mathematics, but they were also in things like office and administrative support, business and financial operations, stuff like that. And again, many of the most vulnerable of those jobs are likely to be the ones on the lower rungs of the ladder, the ones people do to get the experience they need to advance in their careers.
You know, as somebody who's had entry-level jobs, I know some of those jobs can be pretty complex. How is AI able to do them?
Yeah, it was kind of hard to wrap my head around until I toured this Seattle startup called KUOW. They make software that watches you while you work and then automates some of the things that you or an assistant might do. The co-founder of KUOW, Adi Sastry, showed me how it works.
Instead of imagining your screen sharing and walking a new employee through how you do a certain process, you do the exact same thing.
So you record yourself. You take a recording of your screen, doing something that's sort of like an ordinary process you do 1,000,000 times a day, like onboarding a new client.
I'm opening Salesforce. I'm going to look for the right client. We build code that wraps that whole thing into a process. And from there, you start interacting with it again the same way you would another employee.
It's got a level of complexity to it. All this AI needs is a video of you going through that process once to automate it.
You get an email from a client that has a contract attached. You just forward it to KUOW. It'll go through everything that you forwarded us and say, hey, I think here are the things that you want to do. Can you confirm it? The same way you would be interacting with a junior employee, for example.
Wow. I wonder if it feels like training your replacement.
I mean, that's kind of what it's designed to be like, or at least like training an employee. It was pretty remarkable, and you could see how it would be useful for like a law firm or a venture capital fund, businesses where there are highly skilled professionals, but they're doing a lot of mundane desk work. KUOW has this saying, we do your chores so you can do your art. But I just kept thinking, not everybody's an artist, especially not someone who's just starting out in their career.
That's a good point. I mean, today I use automation to transcribe my interviews, and that lets me spend more time in the field. So I can imagine something like KUOW helping me with that. But when I was starting out, I used to transcribe my own interviews, and it helped me become a better interviewer.
Yeah, you're getting at this real tension right now between teaching young people to use AI because it's going to be a part of everything, but also teaching them the basics of what they need to know to do their jobs.
Yeah. So what does this mean for the future? Will companies even have entry-level jobs anymore?
It's hard to predict what this future looks like, but some of the people who are wrestling with that question right now said they think it's just going to change what entry-level means. I talked to Andy Stanchu. He's studying computer science at the University of Washington, and he's about to intern for Amazon for his second summer in a row. And despite everything that we've been talking about, he's not actually that worried about his job prospects. He thinks that the types of jobs that kids get out of college are going to change, but not disappear.
Entry-level engineers are going to be more focused on the bigger picture and on correctness and efficiency. All the boring stuff, all the stuff that we would need to take a week or so reading documentation on, understanding how it works, integrating into, that stuff will all be so much more efficient and will really focus on the higher level stuff.
I heard something similar from Ed Lazowska. He's been leading the UW's computer science school for decades, and he said it's really important that educators get this right. They need to figure out how to teach students the fundamentals, the stuff that AI can easily do for them, while also showing them how to use AI to be more efficient. But if they can figure that out, he is optimistic about the future for software engineers.
Software is what we call elastic, okay? The best example of elastic is air travel. If you make air travel less expensive, people consume more of it. And even though there are fewer pilots in the cockpit because of automation, you need more pilots because there are many more flights. Okay? Software is the same thing. We're always thinking of more things for software to do. So if the routine stuff can be automated, I see this as accelerating progress. I think our job as educators is to teach students to use these new tools to be more effective at their work.
I'm also optimistic that we'll figure this out. But there are still going to be kids graduating every year who need jobs while we do. And we have to figure that out too. Right now, this transition period is just this uncomfortable limbo that makes it really hard to start a career.
I know that none of this talk is going to scare my son out of pursuing computer science. It's his passion. But I know students in almost every field of study are going to have to grapple with this question of, how do I fit into a future with fewer entry-level positions? So after doing all this reporting, do you have any advice for people who are stuck in that awkward transition period?
Yeah, a few things came up in a lot of these conversations. First, obviously big tech is going through this huge disruption right now. But if tech is your passion, there are a lot of tech jobs in companies that do other things. Pretty much every company today needs at least a website, probably an app. So instead of looking at, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, you could look at companies in the education space or life sciences. Also, experts that I talked to said there's always going to be demand for jobs that require a lot of human touch. So think like more lawyers, fewer paralegals. So as students are thinking about what career to go into, they might want to consider industries where we wouldn't want to hand the reins over to computers even if we could, like healthcare or anything that really requires managing relationships.
Yeah, like you might have a whole AI iceberg under the surface of the water, but you want a human at the tip to be able to interact with.
At least one. Otherwise, you might have a Titanic moment. And then the last piece of advice that I heard a lot was to become an expert at using AI to make yourself more efficient. Because the truth is, the jobs of the future are probably not going to require a lot of busy work behind a desk. But there's always going to be demand for big picture critical thinking.
Coming up next, the end game. All right, welcome back. We've got Lucy Suchek here, our producer, to lead the end game for us.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this end game. I think it's going to be really juicy. Okay, so we're going to play Two Truths and a Lie. I know you guys are familiar with this game. I hope our listeners are. It's very popular with the youngins, I feel like.
I think most people will get it.
Yeah. So the premise of this is I want you guys to come up with 2 truths and 1 lie about your entry-level job process. I'm thinking horror stories or any wild experience you had in your early careers. And then you have to guess each other's lies.
Yeah,
all right.
You have to guess out of the 3, which one is a lie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay, who wants to go first?
Do you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gesturing at you.
Okay. All right. So, back in the day, a lot of internships were free, but that meaning they didn't pay you, but you could get college credit for them. And I did so many free internships that I was able to graduate early.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, thanks.
That's number 1.
That's number 1.
Oh, okay. Got it.
You're just taking me at face value. I love it.
You have to guess which one's the lie.
Okay.
Okay, here's number 2. As a free intern, I worked the premiere of Mad Men and shared a drink with the cast before I was technically of age.
Wow. Okay, the TV show.
Yep. And number 3, my first job out of college was a digital producer role for a news magazine, and it paid $12 an hour.
Okay.
Interesting. I think it's graduate early. I think that's a lie.
Okay, Joshua?
Okay, I think it's digital producer, $12 an hour.
Because who would pay so low, right? No, that's true.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, are you ready for me to reveal it?
Yeah.
Lucy wins, but technically I did have enough college credit to graduate early, but I just was a part-time student my last year and did more internships.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I knew journalism was a dying field, so I thought the more I could get on my resume, the more likely I would be to get one of the 3 jobs that were available when I graduated.
That's very industrious of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Joshua, ready?
Okay, so these are my 3 stories. So you may remember that I started in architecture before I got into radio, right?
Sure.
So when I started in architecture, we hand drew all the renderings. And to really make a drawing pop, you need shadows and shading, right? But we didn't have computers that could do that yet. So instead, we used a tiny metal straw called an atomizer to blow clouds of ink onto the paper. Once, I accidentally inhaled.
Oh my God. Jeez.
And I got a lung full of black ink.
Oh my God.
And my teeth were stained for weeks, and my sneezes looked like a horror movie.
Wow.
Wow.
That is vivid.
Okay, number 2. In the 90s, I worked in Athens, Greece on a construction site. I was 22, managing a crew that included Albanian war refugees, and they were pros at laying stucco, and not thrilled to take orders from me. One day, I told the oldest guy, Apostoli, to change something, and he dropped his stucco knife, and he put me in a headlock, and he gave me a noogie. And the lesson I learned from that is don't tell Albanian refugees how to play stucco.
Okay.
A valuable life lesson.
Okay, number 3. When later I switched to radio at KUOW, and when I interned here in 2007, I didn't have a desk. I just bounced between empty ones. And the computers, we had desktop computers, they were always full. Like their disk drives were always full. So no space for my audio files. So when I got there in the morning, I would move folders from those computers to a server during the day, and then I'd move them back at night so that I had space to work. One day in that shuffle, I accidentally deleted Phyllis Fletcher's digital music collection. It still haunts me to this day.
Yikes.
Who's Phyllis Fletcher, for those who don't know?
Oh, people from KUOW know her as someone who was a reporter and then an editor here, and she's gone on to much bigger things now.
Those are very detailed.
Yeah, very detailed. I'm going to guess number 1.
I also think it's number 1 because I feel like parts of it are true, but the actual inhaling of the ink is not. And I studied abroad in Athens, and there's something about that story that just feels true to me.
I don't think you would make up that story.
It would be very, well, he has a wild imagination.
That's true. But the ink in the lungs thing is like, I don't think that happened.
Okay, you are both right.
Yes.
Because although we did learn how to use an atomizer in school, I never inhaled it. And by the time I got into the field, we did have computers that could do shading.
I do love that image, though. It's beautiful, blowing shadows onto the drawing.
Right. Yeah, it is, isn't it? So can we go back to that moment a minute where you had drinks with John Hamm of Mad Men?
Okay, well, I don't think John Hamm was there. This was many years ago. And drinks with is a little bit of an embellishment, but here's the story. When I was in college, I interned for the Daily Beast's events department, and they ended up hosting, I think, the season 3 premiere of Mad Men in New York. I went to NYU. And January Jones was there, who played Betty Draper, and John Slattery, who played Roger Sterling. And when I say had drinks with, I mean the little nervous interns went up to the bar and were like, "Can I have an old fashioned?" And the cast was there mingling within the cocktail hour. But I did talk to John Slattery, and he was so nice and so handsome. And now anytime I see him in anything, I'm just like, "Oh, my friend." Real quick before we go, we have an ask for you, and you might want to grab a pen and paper. We've all seen how much the cost of living has gone up in our community. But how much does it really take to live comfortably here? We're trying to find out.
We want to hear from you. What annual income would it take for you and your dependents to live comfortably here?
We know comfortably means different things to different people. Maybe for you, it's paying all your bills, saving a little, and going on one vacation a year. Maybe you measure a comfortable life in other ways.
Whatever it means to you, here's our ask. Leave us a voicemail with your answer at 206-221-7158. Include your name and neighborhood. Again, that number is 206-221-7158. And you might show up in a future Booming episode. That's it for Booming. Thank you so much for listening.
If you have a question about the economy that you want us to answer, email us at booming@kuow.org.
Also, special thanks to those of you who are donating to the show. We couldn't do it without you. If you want to donate, go to kuow.org/booming. And thanks.
Our producers are Lucy Suchek and Alec Cowan. Our editor is Carol Smith. I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
I'm Joshua McNichols.
And we'll see you next time.
On the latest Sound Politics, Governor Ferguson signed into law a state budget that includes what some are calling the biggest tax increase in state history.
Or he worked with the legislature to fill a massive budget gap without major cuts to services. You know, framing is pretty key here.
You'll get the picture and hear what's next for conservative activists and their ballot initiatives on the latest Sound Politics.
Catch us on the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts.